Hi, today I join you from Bucksport, Maine. It is a warm, at least to us, 52 degrees, but yet still icy. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if there's any background noise. We get some birds flying around and people enjoying the weather. But as I said, I'm here at the mouth of the Penobscot River. Across the river is Fort Knox. Fort Knox, while it was built in the 1840s, it is still connected to the American Revolution. Um, it was built as a result of events that happened. Maine, to give an idea, this part of Maine, it was part of Massachusetts, so it was under the legal jurisdiction of Massachusetts. It was called the District of Maine. It was very rural and isolated. It had been a borderland during colonial times, where it was an intersection of English settlers, French Jesuit missionaries, and the Wabanaki, the Penobscot, and the Passamaquoddy tribes. As you know, Penobscot River. A lot of things in Maine are named after the Penobscot tribe. So this area was very rural. It didn't really start to get settled until about the 1760s. Last week I talked about HIUS, which was another town about 2 hours north of here, that these towns started being settled in the 1760s, primarily for fishing, lumber, and trading of goods, fur trade. And these towns were isolated and they were very vulnerable. So in 1779, you had the British that were in Nova Scotia, and they would patrol these waters. It would not be uncommon to see British ships out in Penobscot Bay. The Massachusetts government caught wind of this, so they organized the Penobscot expedition. It was not part of the Continental Army. It was fully sponsored and paid for out of the state of Massachusetts. It was a large expedition. It was led by Dudley Saltonstall and Paul Revere. This expedition was an utter failure. It would go down as the worst political disaster until Pearl Harbor. And it was so bad that Saltonstall and Revere were court-martialed, which is probably amusing because most American children learn about Paul Revere and his courageous ride through the countryside, warning everyone that the British were coming, but they were tried for cowardice because this expedition was such an outright failure. They fled up the Penobscot River. The British chased them. They were at the point that they were burning their own ships to prevent the British from seizing them. Ultimately, Saltonstall and Revere were cleared of any wrongdoing. However, this area was still it was still very isolated. It was still American, and there were subsequent invasions from the British in 1812. So hence why they eventually built this fort. Now, ironically enough, this fort has never been fired upon. It has never seen any military action aside from some Spanish-American war soldiers being housed there, and now it's a museum. So this expedition is an example of not just a military failure, but a political failure from Massachusetts Bay Colony. And it was an utter communication failure between the land troops and the sea troops, and it just shows the challenges of the centralized government in Massachusetts and rural America. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.